In this edition of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, special guest, Chuck Martin, head coach, Miami University. I'll tell you what, I can see why he's turned it around at Miami. I bet he gets at that kitchen table with parents and he can recruit anybody, anywhere, anytime. Great success at Grand Valley State, Notre Dame, and now at Miami University. A really, really interesting football life, Chuck Martin. Sam, thanks a lot for your question. I was always a football guy. I love football, but I love basketball. I love baseball. I love putting the shot, throwing the discus. I love sports generally, but I knew my body type was conducive to a career in football, and I knew I was going to be a lineman. My first idol, though, when I was a kid, watching my high school or the team that played for my high school when I was growing up, knowing that I was going to play at Wakefield High School, was Mike Martello. A running back, tough kid, great running back. He came to my door, or my house, front door of my house, selling raffle tickets one time for the football team. I answered the door. I was like about 8 or 9 years old. I couldn't even talk. Mike Martello, my hero, was standing right in front of me. So he was my first hero. But otherwise, the guy that I really idolized growing up watching TV, Bob Lilly, the Dallas Cowboys. I played offense and defensive line in high school. I was a defensive tackle as well as an offensive tackle. And I loved Bob Lilly. I loved everything about him. I thought he was just a dominant player against the run, the pass rush. Just appreciated everything that he had to offer. I wore number 74 in my years of high school in honor of my hero, Bob Lilly. That changed when I went to college, wore number 60. Then I wore number 62 in Cincinnati with the Bengals. But in the early stages of my career, because Bob Lilly was my man, 7-4, and proud of it. Welcome to this edition of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And special guest for this episode in the First Star Logistics studios is Miami University head football coach Chuck Martin. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Good to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you giving us the time. Obviously, you've had a really good run. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine. As a young man growing up in Park Forest, Illinois, were you the kind of guy like most kids where whatever season it was, that was your favorite sport? Did you play them all, Coach?
Yes. Football, basketball, baseball, and grew up in the generation before video games. So we actually went to the park all the time. And if it was football season, we went to the park and played football. If it was basketball or baseball, did the same thing. So played a lot of sports growing up at the park. Much different than these kids. They don't even know where the park is.
That's exactly right. Same thing. We used to go down to, it was called Daggers Field, big park like you talk about as a youngster, and man, go down and play, double headers, game in the morning, go home, have lunch, game in the afternoon. That was living large, wasn't it? There's no doubt.
Yeah, no, play all day. We played till it got dark. So it was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So what positions did you play when you played football? What position were you?
I always wanted to be a quarterback, but I typically didn't win the quarterback job, and that's how you end up as a free safety. They usually take the second or third team quarterback and make them a free safety, so that's how I ended up on the defensive side of the ball.
And then in basketball, you were guard?
I was a point guard in basketball, played shortstop in baseball.
Is that right? So you're all-around athlete. I mean, point guard, shortstop, wanted to play some quarterback, but you're the quarterback of the defense, playing some free safety. And now in high school, did you play all these sports in high school as well?
Yeah, played all three in high school and then went on to Millikin University, played football and basketball in college, which is something sometimes you can do at a smaller school. So being a Division III school, I was able to continue to play football and basketball all through my college career.
Yeah, I saw where you played safety, obviously at Millikin, and then also you averaged almost 10 points a game, like 7 or 8 assists a game. You had a pretty good floor game. Were you a point guard as well at Millikin?
Yeah, played point guard. I was kind of a six man my first 3 years. We had really good teams my first 3 years, and I was kind of a role player. Then actually the year I put together somewhat of a stat line, we weren't very good. So the class ahead of me was pretty good, but I was kind of a role player. I was kind of jack of all trades, master of none. I could play a little defense. I could rebound a little bit. I was a good passer. I didn't really shoot a bunch, which we had plenty of guys that could score. So I was kind of a guy off the bench. I was a good role player. And then in my senior year, we weren't as good. So I had to shoot more, and we were not as good because of that.
Was there any coaches during that time frame, high school or college coaches, that made a real impact on you and got you thinking, maybe someday I may even want to think about this?
Yeah, a bunch, to be honest with you. But start with my high school coach, Bob Lombardi, who just passed away the last few weeks. He told me my junior year in high school, he's like, you're going to be a football coach, right? I said, sure, whatever. I'm a junior in high school. I don't know what I'm doing for lunch today. So I wasn't really worried about my future. But he kind of took me under his wing, and he did, we did a lot of things my junior and senior year as far as game planning. And he always kept me, I was the quarterback of the defense, but he always kept me kind of why we were doing things. And I probably saw some things in myself that I didn't see in myself. Then moving on to college, Tim Littrell was the guy that recruited me to go to Millikin University. It was interesting at a smaller school. Things are a little different. He was my secondary coach in football. He was also the assistant basketball coach. So he had a huge impact in my life. I always say he was the one guy that really had confidence in me outside of my family. That really helped me believe in myself. And again, a bunch of my football coaches in college and basketball coach in college talked to me about, same thing kind of that my high school coach said that, hey, you're going to coach someday, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know about that. I was an accounting major at the time, so I figured that's what I was going to do with the rest of my life. But as it turns out, a lot of those guys were right.
So the positions you played, point guard, safety, quarterback of the defense, you always had an aptitude for seeing the big picture, not tunnel vision on just my assignment, but how my assignment affects everybody else from a structural standpoint, a concept standpoint. You had a pretty good handle on that at an early age, it sounds like.
Yeah, I looking back, I understood. I didn't know I was different, but I did. I mean, looking back, I realized like my high school coach would game plan with me and tell me things. I didn't realize he was telling me things that he wasn't telling other kids. Then in college, I literally did game plan with our head coach was defense coordinator Carl Pelker. I literally would. I probably shouldn't get this out, but I would tend to during the season skip some morning classes at times because I knew on Monday morning in particular they were doing game planning. So sometimes I would probably not go to class like I should and go into the football office, and I literally would game plan with the coaches, which again at the time I didn't think was a big deal. It's just I was really into what we were doing and trying to understand the game plan. Looking back, obviously I've never had a player that game plan with me during the week, so I can see why they thought I not only maybe had a little bit of an aptitude for it, but also had the love for the game that obviously coaches need to have.
And you paid your dues as such. I mean, you start out at Mankato State and over to Wittenberg, Millikin, where you played, Eastern Michigan. Talk about the path you took in the early years, the formative years of your coaching career, Coach.
Yeah, I actually went and I was an auditor for 2 years with Deloitte too. So I actually did my accounting deal, and so I didn't take everybody's advice that I'd go into coaching right away. But then I actually decided I wanted to go into coaching. I went to my high school coach, Coach Lombardi, and he lived right around the corner from where I lived and said, hey, I'd like to get into coaching. So he actually hooked me up. I didn't know his son. His son was older than me, but his son was the defense coordinator at Mankato State, which is now Minnesota State. So he actually got me into coaching, called his son and got me a GA up at Mankato. So didn't really have a plan other than I got into it and I knew I loved it from the time I was a GA. I knew it's what I wanted to do. My offensive coordinator at Millikin was the head coach at Wittenberg. That's how I got the job at Wittenberg. Then he left to go back to Millikin. I went back to Millikin with him. And honestly, when I got back to Millikin, I was the defensive coordinator. I was young. I thought I'd be there forever. Like I was at my alma mater. I'm going to be the head coach of Millikin. Like Bubba Watson talks about, like, after he won the Masters, like his dreams didn't go that far, like that was like where my career's taking me. Hey, I was a Division III guy. I was at my alma mater. I thought it was an unbelievable place. Obviously, I had a great experience there as an undergrad, and I was planning on staying there. And eventually the head guy retired, and I'd become the head coach, and that was kind of my dream. So, had an opportunity to go to Eastern Michigan, and took that opportunity, and we all end up getting fired, which is it's interesting in our profession. It happens, and ended up at Grand Valley State with Brian Kelly, and that's when things started to really go in a really good direction. We obviously had a ton of success there, and Brian moved on to Central Michigan in Cincinnati, then obviously to Notre Dame. I took over for him at Grand Valley. We had a heck of a run. We were like 121-9 in 10 seasons, and then I had an opportunity to hook back up with Brian at Notre Dame, and then I did that, and we had a good little run there, and then I've been at Miami ever since. So it's kind of, as a younger guy, it was pretty normal, kind of bouncing around, just trying to do a little coaching. And then I've been fortunate. I tell you, I've had 3 jobs the last 21 years, which I always say coaching life is like dog years. That's like 3 jobs in 60 years for a normal human being.
Boy, your head coaching job with the Lakers at Grand Valley State. I mean, you talk about a run, like you said, with Brian Kelly. Brian, when he was there, had won 29 games in a row. You guys won 40 consecutive games, breaking a half-century-old mark set by in-state, in-conference rival Hillsdale College. 40 consecutive victories. Unbelievable. From 2005 to 2009, did not lose a regular season game, lost only 2 postseason games. Unreal. Yeah. Just instead of the record ended up being 48 consecutive wins, broke the record of 29 set by Brian Kelly. You guys got up to 49. That's staggering. I mean, when you start putting together streaks like that, what's that like? What's that like on a day-to-day basis?
I always used to say more fun than we should be allowed to have, really. So it was a great place. Obviously, Coach Kelly was there 13 years. His last 4 years, we really took off. And again, I was his defensive coordinator when he left. And it's a really good place and a really good location. Then we really got it going, and our recruiting was fantastic. And then obviously winning breeds winning. And I took over, and I knew we could keep it going. A lot of people said I shouldn't take the job because we had won back-to-back national titles Coach Kelly's last 2 years. A lot of people said, hey, you're young and you can't have your first job. You're going to go downhill, and anything but winning the national championship will be downhill. So we were fortunate enough to keep it going. Like you talk about, some of those win streaks were unbelievable to be a part of. And, we went almost three and a half, 4 seasons without losing a game. So we won back-to-back in 05 and 06, and then we lost in the semifinals of 07. So we had some incredible runs there, and it was an awesome experience. Like I said, I would tell young coaches that are there, I'm like, this isn't real. Like I was at Eastern Michigan, got fired. I was at places that he actually lost games, and we hardly ever lost a game, which was a pretty fun 10-year run in my career.
6 seasons, 55-3 in the conference, and like you said, 2 national championships. You had a runner-up in 2009. You're in the Final Four, 5 of the 6 years, 74-7 in that 6-year stretch, 55-3 in the conference. So is it tougher to turn a program around, Coach, or is it tougher to sustain and maintain that level of excellence for such a long period of time, because there's no seat at that top of ladder of success, right? Everybody's trying to knock you off.
Yeah, I would say part of the reason I took the Miami job, because I'd taken over for BK, and we're at the top of the mountain, and we are fortunate over the next 6 years, we stayed at the top of the mountain, and we kept it rolling. But I would say coming here and taking over 0-16, and they had a decade straight of losing at Miami before I got here, I would say turning it around was tougher. I'm one of the few people that actually have done both. So, and not that it was easy to keep it rolling, because obviously, Grand Valley hasn't been to a national championship game since 2009. So it's not like it's just automatic that you'll keep it rolling. But
right.
What we did here in Miami, we started this thing from scratch, and it was awful. We won 5 games our first 2 years. So in college, well, really any level of coaching, even though I came here, we lost 16 straight games. You lose, you win 5 games in 2 years. Everybody's running you out of town, and you're no good. And the players hear that, the coaches hear that. So us sticking together, me and my assistants here, and then sticking with the plan. I think we had a good plan when we got here, but we knew it was going to take some time to rebuild this thing back the right way. And it's turned out that the plan was very good, and we have done it. But it was, we were 0-6 year 3, and trust me, the natives were restless. It was definitely a lot of hard work here, and again, even at Grand Valley, even if we slipped, we were going to win 9-10 games. You know what I mean? So it wasn't good. That would have been awful at Grand Valley to where we were at that time to slip, but you still would have been having success here. We won 2 games our first year, and they were happy we broke their losing streak. Then we won 3 the second year, and it's an improvement. So
Right.
It's just not fun climbing the mountain because there's a lot of losses that go along with climbing the mountain. So first 2.5 years here weren't enjoyable. Then midway through year 3, we went from 0-6 to 6-6 year 3, and from that time it's been a lot more enjoyable. But it was a lot of work, and a lot of nights I stared at the ceiling here questioning, like, why the heck did I leave Notre Dame? And, I knew I was pretty stupid, but this kind of secures that how dumb I was. And why did I decide that trying to turn an 0-16 program around would be a fun challenge? As it turns out, it's been an awesome challenge, but there were certainly days that I questioned that move.
Well, conference record in your tenure at Miami University is a winning record, 5 games over 500, 28-23. And the last 5 seasons, conference record, 6-2, 4-4, 6-2, and then 2-1 with the pandemic. How challenging was the pandemic? You only were able to play 3 football games, all of them conference games. How challenging was that year last year?
Yeah, obviously it was very challenging because first time in all of our lives, not just our lives, but the entire country's like we're all dealing with something that we had no experience dealing with. So it stunk. There's no 2 ways around it. It was a miserable year for everybody. It was, I spent more time dealing with, what was the right way to try to do things and what rules we had to follow. And it's what had to be done. So it wasn't good or bad. But it wasn't very enjoyable. And then we played the fewest games in Division I football. We just, no one did anything wrong. We had a couple teams cancel on us. We canceled on one team because COVID hit our program. So it was very, very disappointing. And then more disappointing because we had 18 starters back off the team that won the championship in 19. So you win the championship in 19. You've worked very hard over time. You've had the best record in the league over the last 4.5 seasons in the MAC. And you got 18 starters back. And we had our best schedule. We had 3 home games, non-league, which we never have 3. You usually, like this year, we got 1 home game non-league. So everything was lined up to have a monster year, and then we don't even have a year. So doubly frustrating for us. But again, everybody went through it. Everybody's life got turned upside down. So we're just more appreciative than ever for what we have here, and more appreciative than ever for our opportunities. And obviously, everybody's looking forward to a more normal 2021, but Miami football definitely is coming off last year and only getting 3 games in.
No question. Coach, 2012, you mentioned at Notre Dame, your offensive coordinator, team goes 12-0, BCS national championship game. You've been an offensive coordinator, been a defensive coordinator, all of that. I mean, you've seen every facet that you need to see to be a head coach at the collegiate level or any level, really. How much of an advantage is that to have exposure on both sides of the football like that?
Yeah, I think it's a huge advantage. It was by design. When I became a head coach, I was 35, 36, whatever. I was fairly young. So I'd been on defense my whole career up to that point. So my first 12 years in college coaching was strictly on defense, and I was a defensive coordinator. I switched over offense, and that was really the main. I wanted to be a head coach. I had the opportunity to be a head coach. I know decisions rest with the offense. If it's 4th down from the 35-yard line, you could punt, you could kick a long field goal, you could go for it. That's an offensive decision. Me on defense my whole life, you just wait to see what they do. If they send their field goal team out there, you send your field goal block. So I knew at Grand Valley and then in the future I would have to make those key game decisions. And at Grand Valley, I knew it'd be in a playoff, maybe a national championship game. Obviously, as I continued my career, if I was fortunate enough to be a head coach, I knew I was going to have to make those those major decisions that are offensive decisions. So I wanted to get experience. I'd been around defensive head coaches and I'd been around offensive head coaches, and they knew one side of the ball really good. But a lot of times when they got involved in the other side of the ball, it kind of things went sideways. So I wanted to have experience to be able to have solid input on both sides of the ball. So as it's turned out, it's been very good for me in my career. Kind of a risky move when I was younger, but it gives me a lot of flexibility. Even next year, I've got two really good coordinators here, and Coach Nowinski and Coach Kaler, but it gives me flexibility, but to have input on both sides of the ball, to coach on both sides of the ball, which I have done at Miami. But it also, when I say things, I have some basis. Like the thing that drives you nuts as an assistant when the guy gets on a headset and starts suggesting things, and it's like, yeah, I don't really think we can put that in right now. It's the third quarter. So to me, at least I feel like when I go into a meeting room or even on the headset, I know really what we're doing. I know our systems, and I can give good input on both sides of the ball. And then even during the week, I can, I'm not walking in saying, hey, we should play cover two, and they're looking at me like we don't play cover two, so I think it really, really helps. I think it helps in game management because I don't see the game one-sided anymore. A couple of years ago, we were really good on offense. We went for it on fourth down as much as any team in the country. And then the very next year, we punted and kicked field goals every chance we got because we were real young on offense in 19. We started a true freshman quarterback. So I have, I think, a unique feel for the game when it comes, because I don't just see it through one lens. I can kind of get the picture of both. And I think I do a good job of trying to play to our strengths as a football team versus an offensive guy is always going to go for it. The defensive guy is always going to want to be conservative, and so on and so forth.
So you have a historic run at Grand Valley State, great success at Notre Dame, now starting to turn things around, like you said, at Miami University. Those experiences, I mean, does that lend confidence to everybody else? You know what it's supposed to look like. You were part of what happened at Grand Valley State, what happened at Notre Dame. So you know what that's how you get there, what that's supposed to look like, everything that's involved. Does that give everybody else around you, your coaching staff, your players, that much more confidence?
I think it does. I think it gave us the confidence to stick to the plan again. We're 2 wins, we're 3 wins, we're 0-6 year 3. And we still didn't. We still knew that if we recruited the certain type of kid and we coached a certain type of way and we developed players like we always did, good things will happen in the long run. Obviously they have. And like I said, from our third conference game, year 3, we have the best record in the MAC over the last 5 years. So we've been doing it in league for a long time. As you said, we're 6-2, 4-4, 6-2, 7-2, 2-1 the last 5 years. So we've had a great run. But again, a lot of it has to do with just the successes, like you mentioned, at Grand Valley or Notre Dame. Like, when things didn't go well early here, we didn't change. We just said, hey, it's frustrating. It may take longer here. Maybe we shouldn't even came here because it's going to take a long, long time. But if we keep doing it, we'll get it. And then we always talked about here, like when we get it where we want it, it'll be really strong. And right now it is really strong. We got really good players. They're really good kids. They're really good students. They have incredible work ethic. Our coaching staff is really good. They're tremendous human beings. So if people that come and look at our program, it's easy to tell in one day that it's a really strong program, and the culture is exactly the way you want it, with the players, with the coaches, with everything. And so we feel like we can sustain. Again, we're not going to win the league every year, but it's going to be a long time before we suit them up in the fall and can't win the MAC. Like we're as good as anybody in this league. We're going to have as good a chance to win the league as anybody else does.
So, Coach, when you're recruiting, do you recruit players to fit your system, or do you adapt your system if you get a great player? You know what I mean? It's like, which is more important, fitting a player into your system, or saying, I'm going to get a stud, and if I have to make some alterations, I'm going to do that?
Yeah, everybody has their way that they believe. We'll always take the great player. We always talk about our systems are big enough on offense and defense to accommodate any talent. So I always say at Grand Valley State, I had a quarterback that started for 4 years. He had 500 some carries in his career. He was a tremendous thrower, but he was really good runner, and he loved to run, and And we had a system in place that allowed him to run the football a fair amount,
Sure.
Then the next quarterback we took there probably ran the ball 15 times in his whole career. And he was more of a pocket guy, and he was less of a run. And we didn't change our offense, but we had enough in our offense that we could pick and choose, like, hey, this is really fits his style of play. This really fits his. And we feel the same way at defense. We played 4 down. We played 3 down. There's a bunch. And every year we kind of look at, there's years we played more man. There's years we played no man, and everywhere in between. They're like, I thought you loved playing man. I go, I love playing man if we got guys in cover,
Right.
If we don't, I don't love giving up big plays. So we're definitely, to your point, we're definitely not, we don't think we're genius coaches and we have all the answers and we're going to out scheme you. We think, hey, we're going to do a heck of a job recruiting. We're going to figure out what these kids are really good at, and then we're going to allow them to do that. And like you said, fit the system to the talent. And we're pretty flexible when it comes to what we do. We've done a lot of different things through the years. That's one of the huge advantages, me coaching on both sides of the ball. I make sure my coordinators aren't afraid to think outside the box. Like, hey, it's the college 4-3 isn't the answer. The 3-4 isn't the answer. The players are the answer. And let's figure out what they're good at, and let's let them do what they're good at, and let's coach them really hard. The biggest thing for us in recruiting, more so than that, is who are you? I always say we talk about building cultures, and I get that. I'm not saying we don't build cultures, but I'm a firm believer at our level, you recruit your culture. If you recruit right, you don't have to build your culture. If you recruit we're very much a stickler on everybody in recruiting starts looking for talent. Everybody. We're all looking for the same kid, the big, strong, fast kid, right? And I say some programs just stick with that. They just chase talent. Like, they get their talented guys, they go after them. They don't, where we are really big on who the heck they are. The NCAA is talking about, the big thing is, are we asking too much of these kids? Should we cut back the hours that are required? Like, I laugh every time I hear that stupid, like, we have that, like, we get 8 hours out of season. Like, 8 hours and 100 and whatever hours during a week. We get 8. My kids spend way more than 8 hours every week on football. Way more. And it's voluntary. Like, I wouldn't care if they cut it to 2 hours. My kids would still spend 20 hours. That's who they are. They love football. They love competing. They love getting, and then same thing in season, 20 hours in season. Oh, it's so hard on these kids. There's college athletes that are on these boards that are trying to convince the NCAA that it's too hard. I said, they're not talking to my guys, because I recruit guys that actually like to play. So you're talking to a bunch of people that actually don't enjoy playing their sport and want the school to pay for their education, So our kids love football. Our kids love to compete. And to me, we recruit kids that are that way. Like, everybody says, oh, there's no old school families out there anymore. I go, no, there's less old school families. We're going to find them. One of the things I always ask kid, how tall are you? How fast are you? How much do you weigh? Has your parents ever yelled at you? Like, I ask every recruit that. Have you ever been? And it's so funny, the reaction. Like, some kids try to convince me that their parents yelled at them. I can tell right away they ain't never been yelled at. Other kids literally look right at their mom and dad and just start laughing. Like, are you kidding me, coach? Like, and to me, it's part of our recruiting checklist. How big is he? How strong is he? How fast is he? How good his hands are? How good his flexibility is? And do the parents yell at him? Because if the parents yell at him, I want to coach him, because he's used to already being coached, not coddled, not told that he was perfect. He's already, what he's going to endure when he plays for us, he's already endured. Like, I had Gus Ragland from Moeller, who's a quarterback that helped us turn this whole program around, came in. He was my first recruit, came in here. We were 0-16 and, left here. And like, I'd yell at Gus and he'd look at me like, whatever, like, coach, like, you're gonna have to do a lot better than that to make me feel how my, and then me and Gus would share dad stories. He'd tell me about how his dad, was when he was a kid, and I would tell him about my dad. I'm like, oh, I think we had the same dad, Gus. Like, it was perfect. So
I'm telling you, I saw Coach
really
Dan
big
Ragland
recruiting that type of kid.
I saw Coach Dan Ragland in action, Coach. It was something to behold. I'll tell you, man. Coach Dan could get after it now.
Coach Dan spent a lot of time watching Bobby Knight through the years.
No doubt. So it's pretty remarkable. I agree with you. I mean, the better teams that I played on, high school, college, or NFL, when your best players are good people, you got a shot. You got a shot to be special. When your best players are jerks, you're in trouble. trouble in River City, man. It's with a capital T. That stands
I
for.
say there's a reason why some people always win and some people never win. It's not by accident. There's some players that are great players. Well, they know, they're just on now. They're really, like you said, and I'm not saying they're jerks, but they're not that leader you're looking for.
Right.
Right. There's something about them that, and I always say, if you can, I'm a big Popovich guy. I'm not a Spurs fan, but I'm big into watching coaches and always trying to figure out why great coaches are great coaches. And it still comes back to discipline, toughness. They're all the same. Like it's never, you never hear about the X and O's. You hear about Izzo being tough and Popovich being tough and Saban being tough. Like it's, and it comes down to, like, can you coach your best players the hardest? Like when I had Gus Ragland, my best football player, I could coach harder than anybody on the field. And then it just, everyone else falls in line. I was thinking about Popovich. They'd always talk about, like, Tony Parker was in the league for 17 years and he'd still be all over Tony Parker. And it's like, and Popovich's point was like, hey, if I can get on Tony Parker and he responds in the right way, like a player should, then, hey, all these young rookie hotshots, they're going to do exactly what I ask them, So to your point about your best players not only being the best people, but also being the most coachable and being a guys that you can get on. Like you can challenge them in front of their teammates and they respond in the right way. Then you really got things going in the right direction.
At First Star Logistics, we're a very strict company that really puts the pressure on our employees. Breaks? What are those?
That's what I'm talking about, Icky. Get the body right, then the mind's right.
Gotta get that body right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Become a star with a chance to earn the highest commission percentages in the industry as a freight broker agent. Check out firststarlogistics.com.
Yeah, I remember Forrest Gregg, had him. He was our coach, head coach with the Bengals. We went to Super Bowl 16. He'd talk about Vince Lombardi that way. And he'd say, man, I'm telling you, Coach Lombardi told the world after I was done playing that I was the best football player he ever coached.
Right.
He treated me like his, unwanted stepchild. And he did the same thing with Bart Starr and Paul Horning. You name it. I mean, he was tough on each and every one of them. And guys responded.
You think of the Cradle coaches, Miami, and the coaching tradition. So it's a pretty cool place to coach. And then, like, I meet the Mallory guys, and Coach Mallory. And, like, they loved Coach Mallory. Coach Mallory changed my life. And then they start telling the stories about just how horrific it was to play for Coach Mallory. You know what I mean? But looking, and then I'm sure Coach Mallory's just like you're talking about Coach Lombardi, like, loved these kids and they were the greatest, but they never knew they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then I meet the Randy Walker guys, and Randy Walker had a similar situation where he took over during some down years at Miami, and he built it back up, obviously, before he went to Northwestern. Right. And it's like these guys loved Randy Walker. Right. And then they start telling the stories about what it was like, and it was misery. It's like, God, I really love Coach Walker's the best. Coach Walker saved my life. Coach Walker changed my life. Then they sit around and start talking about what practice like, and it's just one. It's like you said, it's like child abuse. Like, it's just so funny. But kids still, they want toughness, they want discipline, they want to be pushed, they want to be challenged. And again, we were all teenagers once. We didn't want that every day. We did. But we needed somebody to put their foot down and make sure that we kept our foot on the gas. So it's so funny to listen to all these great coaches at Miami and how tough they were. The Bo Schembechler's, the Woody Hayes, the Airport, they're iconic coaches. But then you talk to their players that play, oh, geez. Yeah, I played for Woody Hayes, and it was on, like, it sounded like torture, but he loved them. I mean, they loved him to this day, So your point is very well taken.
Yeah, the tough love, man. I mean, people respond. There's no two ways about it. So is the culture close to where you want it, Coach? Is it pretty much there?
The culture's been here for about 3 years. Like I said, again, our record's deceiving because even you talk about our conference record, we're 5 games over 500. Well, my first 2.5 years, we didn't win any conference games. So I think we're 26-9. Or there was a span where 4-26 in conference play. I tell everybody the 2 years before I got here, and then my first 2 years, we were basically 4-26 in MAC play. Since that time, I think we're 26-9. So our culture's been good for a while here. I think we're 24-4 the last 28 games my starting quarterback has played, which is pretty damn good. So the last 3 years, it's been awfully fun to coach at Miami. Like I said, the culture is exactly what we want. The kids are exactly what we want. like I said, we don't even have workouts anymore. If you watch our kids not a workout, they're trying to get better. Like they don't view it as a work. There's no Friday morning workouts. It's Friday morning. We got a chance to play football, which we love. We got a chance to get better. We're trying to play in the NFL. We're trying to win this league. We're trying to be better than everyone else. So it's an awesome place to be. Everybody that comes visits our program sees it immediately. Like, wow, your kids really love each other. Your kids really love to compete. Kids really love the game. And again, that's a testament to how good our assistants have done recruiting because they've recruited the right kid. You can't take a kid that doesn't love football and make them love football. You may make them like it more, but he ain't going to love it, and you played the game and that guy. You can't make a kid that doesn't like to work. Yeah. Can you improve work ethic? Yeah. You can't take a non-competitor and make him a competitor. So we recruit those things and it shows every day. If you come watch us practice or play, our kids get after it every day.
Yeah, Coach, I've said this before, but I mean, I've had teammates at the NFL level, great players, obviously playing at a high level. And I'd say, man, that was an unbelievable Monday Night Football game, wasn't it? I didn't see it. You don't watch football? I don't watch football. You don't watch any football? No, I don't really like football that much. I'm just, good at it. And they're good players, but they could have been probably great players if they had, just that little X factor, I mean,
and I tell all the young guys, I said, come in our office at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night in the middle of the season. And there'll be some guys in each of the meeting rooms.
Yep.
It's all our best players. It's not our worst.
Yep.
It's not our worst. It's Mike Brown. It's May Regumma. So it's always if I just go through and there's one guy in there at 10 o'clock watching tape of the upcoming opponent, it's always, I said, so he's more talented than you and he spends way more time than you. And that's again, if you find kids that love football, they will do that without any encouragement. If you don't, then it's always pulling, hey, you should come watch some extra tape. Well, then they do it just for you, and they're halfway not even paying attention. You get those kids that have that love and passion for the game. And again, you got to be big, strong, and fast too. But you also want to find that extra kid that's going to spend extra time on his own without you begging him to spend extra. I remember my first 2.5 years here, we try to make our kids do extra. It was like pulling teeth, and it was like, we got to recruit kids that want this. We've all had teammates that we love to play with because we knew their passion for the game. We've all had teammates that we didn't, good guys, but we didn't love to play with because we knew it wasn't as important to them as it was to us. And I always tell those kids, if you're that kid in high school, you're going to die and go on to heaven when you come to my locker room, because my locker room was filled with guys that love this game.
That's awesome. And the campus, it's like an Ivy League campus. I mean, the campus is beautiful and you get a hell of an education going to Miami University. I bet you can attract some pretty damn good student athletes, no question.
Yeah, no doubt. It obviously, we always say every school's different, every kid's different, but for the right kid, I would say if it's not Stanford or Notre Dame calling, we're pretty good. Northwestern, we're pretty good backup line. If you really want to be a student athlete, if you want to win championships, if you want to play on Sundays, you can do that here. If you want to prepare to be very successful in your career and make lots of money after football, you can do that at Miami too. So again, harder, I said it's not the easy path because classes at Miami are taught at, we attract some of the best teachers and some of the best students in the country. So I said, we're not being taught at a very low level here in Miami. You're going to go to class with some pretty damn sharp kids. So, but for the right kid who's looking for both, like I always say, if Stanford or Notre Dame's not calling you, we're pretty tough place to beat.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate you carving time for us. Your football life has been one of success, at every level, and it continues to be. And I admire coaches like yourself that influence young men at a very, very critical time of their lives where they need to be influenced the right way, and people like you that influence them the right way. You must, when you put your head down on your pillow, you must sleep pretty well at night.
Yeah, it's an awesome occupation, and that's the fun part of it. And again, it's fun to coach the great kids that are squared away when it gets. It's even more fun to coach the kids that really do need a little help in whatever, whether it be maturity, whether it be work ethic, whether it be professionalism. And most time it's just growing up and creating good habits. And we always talk about at Miami, we're going to create good habits that's going to help us win championships and football games, but we're also going to create good habits that's going to help you be a great father, be a great worker, be a great husband, be a great anything. And so it is the most rewarding part of the job. It's the part of the job that we really enjoy the most. And yes, it's a part of the job that when you lay back and you seen a kid that you knew had that ability on and off the field and hadn't quite put it all together, and then you watch him put it all together and you think, man, this is pretty awesome what we do.
Yeah, I remember talking to my college coach, Ben Schwartzwalder, coach, who College Football Hall of Fame, 25 straight non-losing seasons. I mean, had a great run of running backs, obviously led by Jim Brown and a guy named Ernie Davis, the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, just had a great success. And I remember going back to see him after I was done playing college football, and he came to a night that my hometown had for me when I was in the National Football League. And I talked to him about players coming back to see him when they were done playing. And tough guy, paratrooper, bunch of jumps during the World War as a parachutist, and just a really hard-nosed guy. And he started getting, real emotional, watery-eyed about guys coming back and telling them, thanks for helping me become a great doctor, a great lawyer, great husband, great whatever. And that was the most significant impact of all of it in his coaching life. I mean, he was actually unbelievably moved and touched by it all.
Yeah, no, and I'm getting the point where I've got some older people that I coach, which is kind of sad. I'm recruiting kids. I'm recruiting kids I coach sons now, which is disappointing to me. But no, that is running into guys that you've been and sports brings us together. Sports, we don't care. Like, it's not political. It's not black and white. It's not Republican, Democrat. It's not social, economical. It's not religious. We don't care. Especially our sport in football, we got 110 guys in there, and we got it all. You know what I mean? We've got it all. Every view on the world's in that locker room, but football brings us together, and that makes us who we are, and that's what we love, and that's why we get along better than the rest of the world, because we can put all our differences aside because we want to go play football together. So it's those experiences and those relationships are what makes the coaching profession the greatest profession in the world. And from our standpoint, I'm so appreciative to have those opportunities and build those relationships with kids.
Yeah, I mean, the bonds are incredible. Some of your best friends remain the guys that you were teammates with through your entire life. And I remember when I made the Bengals my rookie year, I remember my line coach, Bill Tiger Johnson, saying, "Son, congratulations, you made the team. Do this as long as you can. You're never going to find another job like it. Never going to find anything quite like this." He said, "I'm telling you from experience." Man, Tiger was right.
Yeah, and it's any part of it. It's not just a player. It's not just a coach, equipment guys, the academic guys, the trainers, the strength path. And then like we win the league in 19 and we're running out on Ford. The last ball falls incomplete. We're running out on Ford Field, and the kids got this huge dog pile. And I remember just thinking, like, even in that moment, like, was the throw of victory awesome? Yes, the throw of victory is always awesome. But I remember when I was walking across to shake the other head coach's hand, I was like, I saw some kids in that dog pile, and I was thinking back to when I recruited them and how bad we were. And some of those kids came when we had won 2 games. I mean, they were 2-10 and getting blown out. Like, and just thinking of what a journey those kids were on. Like, and to get to this point, like, anytime you win a championship, it's great. But these guys really came from the bottom of the league, the top of the league, and thinking, man, what an amazing, like, I was in tears at that moment, not for the win. Oh, you're so happy you won. No, I was so happy we won. But just, I was looking at those kids and thinking, God, what? And so many kids fell off during the run. I mean, people didn't make it. People quit. We stunk, and they listened to their parents, and we're never going to be any good. But it's too hard. And it was right. It was. We did stink, and it was too hard. But these kids were still there, And I'm watching them thinking, man, this is what it's all. And again, they're going to have great memory of that day and that championship. But what they learned those 5 years, they're going to kick ass for the rest of their life. Like, it's way more than that moment. You know what I mean? And that you've lived it. You know what I mean? So again, it gets, whenever I talk about this game and these, even every year, just the relationships, and you never get this year back. It's never the same. We got 18 guys back. Yeah, but it's still different, so it is truly the most rewarding thing you can ever do.
Coach, you're a great example why I love talking to coaches, man. It's like life's lessons, I mean, it really is. It's football's a slice of life. There's no doubt about it. And appreciate your time. Appreciate what you're doing up at Miami University. As I said, influencing young men in such a positive way, and continued success, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hi, Dave Lapham here. Have you heard about In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics? Catch new episodes from the world of sports and broadcasting. Search for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.